In a world increasingly confronted with the ravages of climate change, visionary architect Roberto Guillermo Gomes proposes a series of fundamental concepts that require urgent attention. First, he highlights the concept of global warming, a trend of increasing average temperatures in the Earth's atmosphere and oceans, largely attributed to human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation. He also addresses the phenomenon of positive feedback, where the effects of climate change reinforce each other, thus exacerbating its consequences. For example, melting permafrost and clathrates release large amounts of greenhouse gases such as methane, which in turn further accelerate global warming, creating a destructive cycle. Another crucial concept is that of climate tipping points, critical times when the Earth's climate system can experience abrupt and irreversible changes. The text warns of the possibility of reaching these tipping points in the near future, which could trigger catastrophic consequences, such as drastic sea level rise and extreme climate events. He also stresses the importance of adaptation and mitigation of climate change. Adaptation involves adjusting human practices and improving the resilience of communities to inevitable climate impacts, while mitigation involves reducing greenhouse gas emissions and slowing global warming. Another fundamental concept is that of their interconnectedness of ecosystems, highlighting how changes in one area can have cascading effects in other parts of the world. For example, melting glacier can cause sea levels to rise, affecting coastal communities around the world, and rising ocean temperatures can alter global weather patterns. The need for global, collective action to address climate change is emphasized, recognizing that no country or individual can solve the problem alone. This involves international cooperation, the implementation of ambitious climate policies, and the mobilization of significant financial resources for the transition to a low-carbon economy. Ultimately, it urges us to reflect on our role as stewards of the planet and to take responsibility for protecting the environment for future generations. It reminds us that the time to act is now, before it is too late to reverse the damage caused by climate change. See links to notes attached in the details of this video at the bottom. A complex scenario is presented that addresses multiple aspects related to climate change, real estate valuation, and strategies to mitigate environmental impacts. Let's break down the concepts and proposed actions. Environmental Risk Index, II. The creation of a service that evaluates the risk of flooding and shortage of drinking water at a global and local level is proposed. This index is based on data such as the altimetry of homes and information on climate change provided by various scientific sources. Application of altimetry in real estate valuation. Altimetry will be used to measure the flood risk of properties and their valuation based on the shortest potential useful life. This approach allows for a more accurate assessment of property values in flood-prone areas. Automated service with artificial intelligence, AI. The evaluation process will be carried out automatically through AI software, ensuring efficiency and accuracy in generating personalized reports for users. Continuous update of scientific information. A mechanism is established to constantly feed back AI data with updated scientific information provided by organizations such as the IPCC, WMO, and NASA. Impact on the real estate market. The publication of risk reports can significantly influence property values, especially in flood-prone areas. This may lead to a redistribution of investments towards areas less vulnerable to climate change. Projections on the climate crisis. Alarming data is presented on melting glacier, rising sea levels, and global warming. The urgency of taking measures to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change is emphasized. Actions to mitigate climate change. Measures are proposed such as investment in renewable energies, the reduction of CO2 emissions, and the implementation of technologies to cushion global warming. Economic consequences. The potential economic repercussions of the climate crisis are discussed, including the effects on the real estate market, stock markets, and world currencies. Need for collaboration and collective action. The importance of global cooperation and collective action to address the climate crisis and its economic and social impacts is highlighted. In summary, the document addresses key issues related to climate change, real estate valuation, and strategies to mitigate environmental impacts. It proposes concrete actions to assess and address environmental risks, as well as measures to protect capital and investments in a context of climate crisis. The key fact is, when will the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica and its counterpart in Greenland crack and completely collapse? Answer: if the temperature continues to increase and reaches 2 to 3 degrees C between 2025 to 2030, it will thaw completely. From that moment on, cities like Dubai will be worth zero. It is the estimate of residual time available to proceed to relocate the invested capital. It describes how the exchange of information on environmental risk between actors in the global real estate market can trigger a series of chain reactions in the behavior of investors and agents in the sector. Let's look at some key points. Cross-movement of interests. The exchange of information on environmental risk is expected to provoke a cross-movement of interests in the real estate market. Those anticipating negative impacts of climate change will look to sell properties in vulnerable areas and buy in safer areas. Heritage protection. Owners of real estate assets in coastal areas may feel pressure to protect their assets from the risk of loss from flooding or other extreme weather events. This may result in a demand for mitigation and adaptation measures by relevant governments and authorities. Opportunities for real estate agents. Real estate agents can benefit from this situation, as demand for properties in safe areas will increase while properties in vulnerable areas will experience a decrease in value. This can translate into greater business opportunities and real estate transactions. Impact on property prices. The change in demand is expected to affect property prices, with a devaluation in vulnerable coastal areas and an increase in safer areas. This reflects a reassessment of environmental risk in the real estate market. Global real estate capital twist. It describes how this phenomenon essentially represents a global coiling of real estate capital, where investors seek to protect and maximize their assets in a context of climate emergency. In summary, this passage illustrates how information about environmental risk can trigger a significant reconfiguration in behavior and investments in the real estate market, with both economic and social consequences. Given the panorama of global thaw and the possible effects of their claveret rifle, it is essential to consider a series of key requirements for a city to be considered a safe haven for global capital flows in the real estate sector. These requirements must address both protection against the impacts of climate change and geological stability and access to water sources. Here is an analysis of these requirements. Altitude and altimeters. Refuge cities must be located at an appropriate altitude that protects them from sea level rise due to global melting. Altimetry should be used to assess flood risk and determine the elevation of properties relative to sea level. Geological stability. It is essential that refuge cities are built on stable and safe soils that can withstand earthquakes, landslides, and other adverse geological events. Geotechnical studies must be carried out to evaluate the stability of the soil and the presence of geological faults. Potable water supply. Shelter cities must have access to safe and sustainable drinking water sources to ensure long-term viability. This may include groundwater sources, rivers, lakes, or desalination systems. Resilient urban planning. Urban planning must take into account resilience to extreme climate events, such as floods, storms, and droughts. This may involve the implementation of green infrastructure, adequate drainage systems, and coastal buffer zones. Access to basic services and emergency services. Refuge cities must have a strong infrastructure that provides access to basic services, such as healthcare, education, and transportation. Additionally, they must have well-established emergency response systems to deal with natural disasters. Regulations and regulations. Strong regulations and standards for construction and urban development must be established to ensure the structural safety of buildings and the protection of the environment. This may include strict building codes and natural resource conservation policies. Technological innovation and adaptation. Shelter cities must be open to technological innovation and adopt advanced solutions to adapt to climate change. This may include the use of green technologies, renewable energy, and intelligent resource management systems. In summary, refuge cities for global capital flows in the real estate sector must meet a series of requirements that address both protection against the impacts of climate change and geological stability and sustainable access to water sources. These requirements are essential to guarantee the security and long-term viability of real estate investments in a context of global threat and associated risks. Considering the elaborate requirements, here are some additional suggestions of possible refuge cities like Bariloche and Denver. 1. Zurich, Switzerland. Zurich is located at a considerable altitude and has a solid infrastructure that makes it resistant to natural disasters. Furthermore, Switzerland is known for its geological stability and efficient water management. 2. Vancouver, Canada. Vancouver is surrounded by mountains and oceans, which protects it from flooding and offers spectacular views. Canada also has a progressive environmental policy and is known for its access to abundant, clean fresh water. 3. Oslo, Norway. Norway is famous for its focus on sustainability and its natural resource management. Oslo has a topography that protects it from flooding and a resistant infrastructure. 4. Portland, United States. Portland has a strong environmental culture and is surrounded by forests and rivers. The United States has a developed infrastructure and strict environmental regulations. 5. Salzburg, Austria. Salzburg has a rich cultural history and is surrounded by mountainous landscapes. Austria is known for its commitment to sustainability and its high quality of life. These cities offer a combination of altitude, geological stability, and access to water sources that make them potential refuges in a context of global melting and risks associated with climate change. Establishing a precise percentage of how much property in refuge cities could increase in a scenario where coastal properties fall to zero due to global flooding is difficult, as it depends on a variety of factors such as market demand, land availability and resources, and the capacity of local infrastructure to handle an increase in population and economic activity. However, we make a rough estimate based on market logic and historical observations of similar situations. 1. Increased demand. With flooding of coastal properties, high demand for property in refuge cities is expected from those seeking to protect their assets and settle in safe areas. This increased demand could put upward pressure on housing prices. 2. Scarcity of land. Shelter cities will likely experience a shortage of land available for construction as safe, elevated areas are limited. This limitation in land supply could also contribute to an increase in housing prices. 3. Competition between buyers. High demand for properties in refuge cities may generate competition among buyers, which could lead to higher purchase offers and therefore an increase in prices. That said, property prices in refuge cities could be expected to see a significant increase, possibly in the range of at least 50% to several 100% in the short to medium term, depending on the specific location, quality of life, the availability of services, and other factors. However, it is important to remember that these estimates are only hypothetical and may vary considerably. Dubai plans to become a smart and sustainable city, but isolated efforts within a context of global climate acceleration are useless. It's like pouring a teaspoon of butter into the middle of a jug of boiling water. The butter will melt, as well as Dubai will remain underwater due to oceanic rise due to accelerated melting of the polar glacial massifs. When? Starting in 2025, the first positive feedbacks between all coupled ecosystems begin. To define refuge cities to protect intensive capital investments in the face of climate acceleration in a critical phase, it is necessary to process the available data by crossing several data banks with the correct variables of the increase in the anomaly in the short term, medium and long term. This means that sites that are safe today may no longer be safe tomorrow, so the measurement parameters must be very precise and take into account the different levels of risk of the parameters and hypotheses involved. This work will be done immediately as soon as we have sufficient resources, possibly with the California company Cognition, with which we have opened the initial dialogue. Due to the scarcity of safe places and cities around the planet, in the face of climate acceleration and its effects, once capital begins to relocate, the strength of demand will cause real estate valuations to experience an increase between 50 to 1,000% from their initial values.